My name is Lola from the Ministry of Women, Children and Social Affairs from Nigeria. I really appreciate the organizer of this program because nowadays we need to fight for our rights as women, and especially in Africa that women are seen as second-hand products. So we really need to fight, and I really appreciate this organizer for the program being held today. I actually came all the way from Nigeria to attend this program because anytime I heard about the program on gender issues, on women's rights, I always love to attend it. So addressing women's rights in a global compact on migration is a very good one, and I know and I believe we will act on it to make impact. Thank you.
In the UNU academic panel series, Academic Thinking on Migration, which we have been organizing in the context of the consultations towards a global compact on migration. Some of you will know that UN University has the pleasure and the honor of this year chairing the UN's interagency process on migration, the Global Migration Group. And we have rather big shoes to fill in that role because prior to us the role was held by UN Women. So it's our great pleasure to be co-organizing this event today, not only with our own UNU Migration Network, but with UN Women. This is, as I said, the fourth in a series of 5 panels that we've been holding here at the United Nations to encourage engagement by stakeholders involved in the consultations on the Global Compact process with the latest academic thinking on key sets of issues that need to be addressed in the development of the Global Compact. We have today a really excellent panel from many different places. I'm not going to introduce them, but instead turn the floor over to Dr. Fiona Sen, who is the Director of the Policy Division of UN Women, who will be moderating today's proceedings. Thank you all of our speakers for coming to be part of this conversation. Thank you, Fiona, for your moderation, and to your team for their support as we've been co-organizing and preparing this event. And I look forward to a very rich conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James, and I'd like to echo the appreciation of partnership which has brought us to this particular discussion today, and which I think is manifest also in the process you outlined, where we chaired the GMG and you chaired the GMG chair, and that our common areas of interest feature in the work that we do together. So I'd like to acknowledge that partnership and that cooperation, and appreciate that this particular discussion is possible today because of that. I'd also like to thank, and I'll introduce some individual speakers who've come to take us through some of the key issues we need to bear in mind in this conversation in terms of where we are now, where we move to as the work progresses. It gives me pleasure now to turn first of all to our first speaker, Dr. Francisco Cosmontiel, former colleague at UN Women, who is a Senior Research Officer at the United Nations University at their Institute of Globalization, Culture and Mobility. Francisco, would you mind if I don't read your full bio and we hear from you rather than hear about you?
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kane, Dr. Sen. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We all know that there has been a prevailing prejudice when considering labor migrants that focuses only on the negative effects they have for the countries that host them. The focus is on how they compete for the jobs or citizens, or how they represent a security threat. In many cases, voluntary migration is conflated with trafficking, especially when women end up in very vulnerable occupations. I would like to move away from this discourse that often represents migrant workers in a negative way. The United Nations University Institute on Globalization, Migration and Mobility, the institution I work for, has conducted a number of studies to better understand why and how migration may offer women routes to empowerment. There are ways that migration provides women with new social, cultural and economic horizons as they cross over and settle in new countries.
Later. the discussion, and I'd like to turn now to Dr. Annabelle Wilkins to make her remarks. She is a research fellow on the Work and Home Project at the University of Southampton in the UK. And I don't know if you've seen the title. The title for her talk is very intriguing. She says, the title she's provided is, "I will do all I can for my people. Migrant women as change agents on the Myanmar-Thailand border."
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. And I'm going to present the title of my paper is actually a quote from a woman that I spoke to who is an activist on the Myanmar-Thailand border, and I hope that what I will talk about today will emphasize migrant women's agency and how they contribute to migration in social and economic ways, but also can contribute to the development of peace and sustainable democracy in their countries of origin. Myanmar is currently experiencing rapid socio-economic and political transition since holding elections in 2010 and completing a transition to a civilian government. So it's seen a dramatic increase in international investment and humanitarian aid, but there are many ongoing conflicts and human rights concerns which have led to expressions of caution about the prospects for sustainable reform.
Thank you. I'd like to turn now, if I may, to Monica Corona to give her remarks. Ms. Corona is a consultant on migration to our UN Women's Office in Mexico, and has been is a social scientist with more than 20 years of international experience on gender development, migration, and human rights. And I believe you'll be talking to us about the research agenda in Mexico and women migrant workers. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Please let me share with you in this academic panel the findings, results, and priority issues found during the work we have done during the last years at UN Women Mexico, in collaboration with research centers, universities, and civil society organizations, focusing on the advances that have been made in the research focused on the situation of migrant women workers. The series of studies, research, and knowledge products aim to advance in these issues and to construct and disseminate research proposals on the subject of the rights of migrant women, including girls and young people, not only at national level, but also from a national and regional perspective, incorporating new analytical approaches and different themes and populations, with a special emphasis on Central American women and their migratory experience in Mexico.
I turn now to Dr. Jenna Hennebury, who is Associate Professor and Director of the International Migration Research Centre at the Balsillie School of International Affairs at Wilfrid Laurier University, Canada. Dr. Hennebury, you're going to be talking to us about missing data, yes? Missing women, ensuring the visibility of women migrant workers in the Global Compact. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. What I wanted to talk about here today was the gaps and blind spots that we have around thinking around gender and migration because of the type of information that we can access and the type of data that we gather. So I'm going to reflect on some of the work that I've been doing, but more of a kind of macro scale, not so much micro in context, which also is really important for making visible the realities of migrant workers and migrant women more broadly. We know the facts. We know that there's a feminization of migration, and we know that it means a lot of the things that we've been hearing about here today. But we know these facts because we've collected the data. They represent very powerful tools to make women visible in migration. But they're only part of the story, and only part of the story is being told, and the lives and perspectives of many migrant women remain invisible. While there's There's considerable sources of data pertaining to migration. There are notable gaps and measurement issues with respect to women migrants specifically. Here's some of the primary challenges in the seeing and knowing that you pointed to earlier.
Content there, my eyes are not good enough to see the detail of some of those slides anymore, but perhaps we can get copies afterwards and look at more detail. But we've had some really interesting presentations. One on response to women's migration. We had some interesting contributions around the Mexico experience. 2 presentations on the impact of women's migration. We talk about remittances and change in receiving and sending countries. And UNU will talk about changes in engagement, identity and belonging and expectation. And then Jenny will talk to us about how do we know any of this, how can we continue to know any of this. So I think that's a nice big picture overall. So we have about 20 minutes to open up now for discussion. I will be strict and hold back myself on questions that I have and open up to the floor first, and perhaps take 2 or 3 in one go, if that's okay. Please indicate if you'd like to make a comment or ask anything of the panelists. Thank you. So we'll go in that order, and then I'll come back to you in the next round. Please. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Tresna. I'm with the ACU. I was just wondering, Dr. Wilkins, you know, can you hear me now? Dr. Wilkins? I was wondering, in Myanmar, approximately how many ethnic groups are there, and what kind of government was it before? Was it a constitutional monarchy, or is it a democratic republic? What kind of government was it before, their protests began and fighting and civil wars, etc.?
I'll take it. That's right. Yeah. So my name is Etsy, and thank you for this wonderful presentation. I go from the field of conflict, so this a little more relates to what Dr. Wilkins was talking about. But so Dr. Sen, you started with referring to the importance of acknowledging women's when they are victims rather than victimhood. It's something I'm particularly, can you hear me? Particularly interested in, especially when you connected with Dr. Wilkins in the end towards the importance of women in peace building. And I was wondering, in the context of them connecting the benefits of women and empowerment, about efforts towards their counterparts, so men. Women, especially in this context of conflict, are still very much looked at as through the lens of a victimhood. So, yeah, I was just wondering if possible, or if on personal experience, the likelihood of involvement more focus on male counterparts in order to empower women in this context.
Good afternoon, my name is Mariam. I have studied anthropology and I'm active in various human rights organizations, and I wanted to ask Monica Corona, in response to her very rich and detailed presentation about the impact of multinational corporations on the Mexican border. Specifically, I've been reading this ethnography about women in industry in Mexico's frontiers, focused on women in electrical processing plants and women in the retail sector, and this was published in the 1980s, so I'm not certain how the Maquiadora situation is currently playing out. I know there are agencies in the United Nations that try to have some oversight over multinational corporations. These are multinational corporations that are exploiting the most vulnerable Mexican women with avoidance of labor unions, very low salaries, very poor working conditions. So I'm wondering what that situation is now and how that plays into the migrant situation.
Thank you very much. There were two questions, if you want to take those, then I'll come to Monica. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your question. In regard to the government in Myanmar, in regard to the government situation in Myanmar, it was actually a military-controlled government for a long time. After it gained independence from the British colonial rule in 1947.
Deliberate on further and refine our work. I'd like to thank Julia from UNU and Inquiry from UN-Women sitting behind me who have helped put this together, and of course thank James for this cooperation for this event. And I think James has something you'd like to say before we close.
Well, just super briefly, because we are out of time, thank you to the panelists, to UN Women, also to Julia and Inquiry. Thank you to the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, which has made this possible. For those who would like to attend the final panel in the series, it will be on the 12th of July, also at lunchtime. That's the first week of the HLPF. So we will be over the road in the 1 UN Millennium Hotel. And the topic for that session is alternative ways of thinking about migration and development. We will circulate material on that at a time. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to our panelists. Have a very enjoyable afternoon.